Good morning. Interfaith dialogue. Should I or the Salvation Army run and hide? The short answer is no. But let's be frank. The day is some way off when most Salvationists will instinctively go for interfaith dialogue. And what about that word should? It's not really for me to tell you or the Salvation Army at large what you should do. And I don't want to add to the hardening of the auguries so early in the day here at Congress. So the aim of this 10-minute talk is on a more lowly scale. I'm hoping to urge you to decide to engage in a conversation and friendship with one person of a different faith. This will, of course, involve reading as well to know about that faith. That's my aim. Just one person. And if I'm going to persuade you to do that, we should probably time bind this. And so let's say by Christmas. Is that okay? That's the aim of my talk. So what I want to say is why we should do this, why we should engage in discussion and conversation and friendship with those of other faiths, and also how we might do that. So first of all, why? I've got just 2 points. First of all, it's because of the comprehensive authority of the God who we worship and serve. God is a God who has no favorites. To him, humanity is precious. There are no throwaway people, there are no second-class people. And also because of the authority of Christ, the true light who enlightens everyone, as St. John's Gospel says. So as we're constantly reminding each other, and we need to do so more and more, we need to consider him, Jesus, and his way of encountering people, every person. Because of him and because of how he is, we now regard no one from a human point of view only. We have been given the ministry of reconciliation. It's the boundless thing that has got hold of us. Yes, if we are in discussion with a person of another faith, there is always an invitation to Jesus that is there, lived out and sometimes spoken. But there's always should be, I believe, the question in our own mind as well. Have I understood him right? You see, I think you will agree with me that true dialogue recognizes the full validity of the other person and of their equality in the eyes of God. Genuine dialogue means that we have to examine and re-examine our own truth claims and try to seek for a genuine humility, telling others what we in our ignorance think we know. Well, someone may already have it in their mind to ask me a question and to challenge me and say, well, this stuff is just woolly relativism, i.e., oh, well, everyone, you know how some say everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But I already reply, before you ask that question, that all truth claims must be subject to the touchstone of, is it ethical? In other words, you could say the acid test of everything is about love of our neighbour. Secondly, not only because of the God we serve and how he is, but because of the world we live in. We're in a global village now. We all say that all the time. I'm just back from a few weeks in India, where, as you probably know, only 2 to 3% of the entire population is Christian. I spent those weeks at a great Salvation Army school, which has many Sikhs and some Hindus among the students and the staff. And this state of affairs is typical for much, I could say for most, of the Salvation Army world where we serve. not the luxury that we have here where we're the dominant people and we can decide whether we're going to have any connection at all with people of other faith or not. It's not really an option there. But in any case, we're an international army with a global vision, so it goes without saying that in such an army we need to know our neighbours. And in Aotearoa, New Zealand, huge changes are underway. Consider the tremendous rise in the migrant religions in the present decade in this country. If you think about the 2006 census and the rise in migrant religions in the 5 years from 2001 to 2006, it's very, very clear. I'll just mention one or two of them. Hinduism rose, the 2006 for Hinduism was 64,500. That is up 24,000 on the 5 years before. For Buddhism, 52,500, almost, up 10,000. For Islam, 36,200, up 12,000. Just consider those figures compared with our own statistics in the Salvation Army. 11,500 people in 2006 on the census identifying as Salvationists. But the point is that our reach and our access and our influence is far, far, far beyond the number of us who are either Salvationists or identifying as adherents and so forth. And the key thing for us is, because of the trust of the people and the enormous scope of our work throughout this country, we have access all the time to people who are not like us, either in culture or religion or all kinds of things. Surely we need to know our neighbours better. I'll just move to commenting then about how we should make these connections that I believe, and I believe you, many of you also, may think are very, very important. We're not on our own if we decide, yes, it is right for me to make connections with someone of another faith. We stand on the shoulders of some giants, and I mention a quote from only two of them. One, I would say, was probably the greatest missionary of the 20th century, Leslie Newbigin. The second, probably the greatest missionary of the 19th, David Livingstone. And up on the screen, you'll see a quote from each of them. The one from Leslie Newbigin has really influenced me for many years. See what you think of it. Newbigin says this: "It's almost impossible for me to enter into simple, honest, open, and friendly communication with another person as long as I have at the back of my mind that I am one of the saved and he is one of the lost. The assumption is that I have access to the secret of his ultimate destiny. All such pronouncements go beyond our authority and destroy the possibility of a proper meeting. The truth is that my meeting with a person of another religion is on a much humbler basis. I don't claim to know in advance his or her ultimate destiny. I meet him simply as a witness." Note this part. "I meet him simply as a witness, as one who has been laid hold of by another and placed in a position where I can only point to Jesus as the one who can make sense of the whole human situation, which I and my partner share as fellow human beings. This is the basis of our meeting." And the other one is from David Livingstone, who, as you know, his body is buried in Westminster Abbey, right in the nave there, in front of that first altar. His heart was buried by those who loved him so much, buried in Africa, which was totally right, wasn't it, to be left there. But his body was carried and buried there. And this is what you will see as you look on the floor of Westminster Abbey there. It says that his body was brought by faithful hands over the sea. It tells that he was born in Scotland and that for 30 years, just note this part in the quote, for 30 years his life was spent in an unwearied effort to evangelize the native races, to explore the undiscovered secrets. He wanted to find where the Nile started, and to abolish the desolating slave trade of Central Africa, where, with his last words, imagine him sitting in his hut, in his weakness and his sickness, he wrote this: "All I can add in my solitude is," thinking of the slave trade, "may heaven's rich blessing come down on everyone American, English, or Turk, who will help to heal this open sore of the world. And so, why should we engage in interfaith dialogue and discussion with people? Because of the God we worship, who has no favorites and whose love is outpouring to all. Because of the world we live in, which is a world of many faiths, many majority faiths which are not Christian in many, many places. How should we do it? Simply as a witness. And as David Livingstone says, we should join the fight. We should, as we've been saying at Just Action, and it's coming through time and again here as well, we should, I call David Livingstone's words, I'll fight talks. We should have our arms around each other. We in the army, obviously. We with other Christians also, but also with those of other faiths. We will fight with anyone who will fight for justice and fight for the cause and fight to ease, as Livingstone said, this great sore of the world. So the aim of my talk was that you might be moved before Christmas to engage in a conversation with at least one person of another faith. And I'm taking that as a personal challenge. Are you up for it?